Alrighty. So just off at the top, the Stacks grant. So you probably saw an email. I've had to cancel that, and we're going to reapply through through Digital Playhouse, specifically because like legal advice. They said, look, basically the government doesn't recognize open source software and an open learning network, so like would be liable for stuff. So I was like, okay. So that's one side of it. The other side, I think, for the School of Bitcoin, kind of pivoting and becoming a open curriculum project. So no money associated with it, and there's no owner. It's a community project, so all of ours, and it all exists on GitHub. So I think we're pretty safe if that's the case with that. Now I'll put a new what I should say. So I put a new tagline just on the website. So actually using what you said, Jill, for D financial literacy, which I really like. So an open project to build a dynamic, consensus-driven curriculum specifically for D financial literacy that has the ability to plug into any institution to support learners on problem project-based learning projects, or journeys, should I say. If we want to tweak that, change it, we can. That's all good. I thought it's probably just good to get out there, and then we can put it on the socials and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and getting it out, shipping things out. And I mean, I see that along the way here, we pivot on a lot of stuff. We do this, we do that, and we're getting it right. So I like the wording that you guys came up with after that meeting. That's awesome.
Awesome. Oh, thanks, Gordon. That's good. Oh, here's Tony. Hey, Tony. You're muted and we can't see you. Anyway, I'll keep going. So I had just on the same note, had a really good meeting with El Salvador on Wednesday. So there's a guy there, Rodrigo. He's going to put us in contact with the Bitcoin Beach guys. So if you don't know the history of that, they basically have a school there that they've set up, and they've created a circular economy, paying students to stay in school, and it's like really awesome stuff. So when I ran through the concept of the days, he said, oh, well, this was something that we could definitely have synergy with their project. So my thinking is, and we probably need more meetings and that sort of thing, but setting up the days there with those guys specifically, and yeah, getting them to sort of run it. So like we build the curriculum, so we've already been building the roadmap for building your own DAO. So basically forking that and forking the curriculum and running it. Oh. Hi, Tony. No, that's weird. I might mute him. Yeah, forking that curriculum. The big thing is probably translation to Spanish, because I think that's going to be really key for anyone in that country, sort of thing. But so yeah, really good news. I think what we might do is have a meeting with all of us with them, if we can kick that off, and then I reckon it's going to be pretty awesome. So that's that side of it. I think if everyone's all right with that, with this being just an open project rather than like a business, I think that's it's more exciting to me. But does anyone have any sort of objections to that?
No.
I thought it was an open project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's now official.
Yeah.
Guys,
Like,
I have to drop out. I forgot I had a doubled appointment, but I'll talk to you soon.
No worries, Gordon. Maybe we'll go through your thing next time. Yeah, well, exactly right. That was my big thing. Like, this is an open project and we're transparent with everything, and there's no money. Like, what? So yeah, I think just the legal stuff in Australia just doesn't gel with open source material from the sounds of it. So yeah, that's basically the crux of that. So anyway, moving on. I think the really cool thing that's coming up is the 24 hours of project-based learning. So hey, there's Tony. That's not me.
Hi, Tony.
Right, so
Hi, everyone.
I don't know what was going on with your mic and stuff before. That was weird.
New laptop, it's just all the settings were all screwy and they're all fixed now, so good times.
Cool. Well, before we get into the PBL stuff, a bit of an intro for Tony. I'll just ask him to jump in to give us a bit of a background on open source licensing. So we had a discussion when I was up in Canberra around that, specific to this project and kind of how that would fit in with what we're building. So I think it's probably really pertinent today because we're just talking about like why this is an open project and an open community and kind of what that means. But Tony, do you want to give a bit of an intro to yourself and then maybe just jump into the different ideas that you had for the open licensing?
Sure. So my name's Tony. I'm a friend of Kieran's. I've worked in IT and cybersecurity for approximately 15 years or so, various IT roles, offensive, defensive, cyber, with a strong passion for Linux and open source software as well. So trying to blend all those various aspects together within a job is quite tough. So I've had to branch out and do a few things individually to satisfy my burning desire for open source software. So I guess where I come in to help everyone out here is, I guess, get a general understanding on open source licensing, what it really means. There is quite a lot of different types of open source licensing. It's not one size fits all. And the reason for that is over the last 30 odd years of software development, various teams and individuals have created their own licenses to suit their needs, and of course open source said license itself. Whether or not some of these licenses are applicable to what your team's trying to do is really the question, and also whatever work and derived works that are created from the initial work, how would you like that released, and would you like to be accredited for it? Or I know money's not the factor, but we need to think about that from a licensing perspective as well. So yeah, happy to field any sort of questions, or I can just sort of
I think
ramble on.
Specifically, you had in mind, so like when we were chatting about it, the what did we land on? So it was the GPL version 3 license. So you thought that specifically for like writing curriculum, that sort of thing. Do you want to like jump into that and maybe like why we would do that?
Yeah. So the idea behind GPL license is we tend to think of licensing as what we call a copyright. The GPL was developed, I guess, as the opposite of that, and they call it a copyleft license. And essentially what that means is a copyright means I want to license a product, whatever it may be. I have to pay the vendor or the company, whatever, some royalties of whatever that may be, and hence now I've got a copyright of it. Copyleft essentially puts that on its head and says, well, if I derive my work from someone who's licensed their initial work under GPL, copyleft license, I can do with it whatever I please. If that means I create a business that's based on that initial source code or initial work, that's okay too. The only real requirement is that the original authors are given credit. And essentially what that means is in your documentation, to say, well, Tony's responsible for this code. We'd like to thank him for it. Kieran's responsible for this code. We'd like to thank him for it. And here's now all our code, and here's our product that we want to, offer to the world via open source or to sell via commercial agreement or whatever it may be. So really the idea is that fork in the road, how we want to skin that. GPL version 3, V3 as we call it, has been around for approximately 15 years. GPL version 2 had been around since 91, so from an open sourcing sort of license. And GPL version 1 was really a beta version of the GPL licensing concept. So really version 2 and version 3 are the most popular. Version 3 by far is the most popular worldwide from an open source licensing perspective. If you've ever heard of Linux, the Linux kernel, majority of that is GPL version 3. And essentially the reason for that is between version 2 and version 3 of the GPL license, a number of big corporations such as Microsoft bought a number of open source products. The GPL version 2 license they couldn't foretell this. It wasn't able to protect the source code and the licensing derived work. So version 3 was created to make sure that can't happen. So for example, Microsoft buys a source code product. As soon as they buy it, whatever product it may be, they close source it, meaning they retract all the source code out in the world, and no other derived works from that initial source code can be sold commercially. GPL version 3 expressly permits that to not happen. guess is
Right.
double negative. So what that means is, Microsoft buys your stuff. They can't close source it. Well, they can if they wanted to, but they can't tell anyone else not to use it.
Yeah,
You know,
right. So,
yeah.
so for us, so like we're instead of code, we're running curriculum on GitHub, right?
Right.
So for us, we're putting it out there. Anyone can use it. So version 3 would basically stop, I don't know, like a big university coming along, buying it up and saying no one else can use this.
Yes.
Right?
And the idea is that you'd have to sell it to them. So there'd be some sort of I imagine, contractual formal agreement there. But if you in turn say no, well, the answer is no. And that's it. So it really depends. There are some other licenses, such as the Apache license from the Apache web server fame, and the BSD license, which is similar to Linux, just another type of operating system. Those licenses, essentially how they're different is, if you release your source code, I can take your source code, I'll give you credit to it, okay? But I can make a commercial business out of it. And I don't have to give you any royalties. All I have to really say is, as part of my documentation, thank you, Kieran, for the source code. Bob's your uncle, and off it goes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So it really depends. If you're looking to give this away completely for free as in beer sort of thing, or you're looking to at some point make a commercial business, or relicense this at some level. Because the key thing with these very GPL license is, once a bit of source code, for example, a presentation or a document, the source code, it doesn't really matter at this point. Once it's classified as a GPL license, version 2 or version 3, it makes no difference. It cannot be relicensed, meaning I can't take your code and say, well, I don't really like this GPL license, doesn't help my business because I can't make money for it. I'm going to put Tony's license on the top, which says only Tony can use it, and I have to charge whoever else. Well, this happens. Companies have gone to court for this sort of stuff because they've literally stripped the GPL license, because a snippet of the GPL license is added in every file, and it's illegal, illegal to strip that. And companies have done that and put it in their commercial product. HP comes to mind, and they've gone to court for that because they've stolen people's work. Essentially what it is, right? Stolen people's IP and not paid them royalties or anything like that, but they've just stripped it, which is bloody illegal. And companies now get into hot water. On the regular.
Because I was looking at a partner, Natasha, like one of her friends is doing like friend of a friend is doing like crypto investment advice, like this website. I'm like, oh my God, that's the opposite of everything I would ever want to do with my life. Like that is just
absolutely
like just gross, right? So so what you're saying is like this curriculum we're creating, we want to make it GPL version 3 so that he couldn't take it and repackage it and say, this is mine now, and you have to pay to read like whatever we've written, sort of thing.
And agreed. And the last part of, I guess, an open source license is what they call contribute back. So what the GPL version 2 and version 3 licenses give you as an initial content developer is, if I, for example, take your curriculum, your source code, whatever it may be, I make modifications to it, just say I add additional content, additional modules, or whatever it may be in the curriculum itself, I'm legally obligated to give you my changes back. And it's called what they call upstream. So you guys are upstream, your initial content creators, and there's branches hanging off like a tree, I guess, perspective from the top level. I'm legally obligated, if I derive my work from yours and I modify at all, that I contribute it back up to you guys. It's up to you if you want to say, oh, those changes are great, thank you for the course material. You'll just integrate that into your system. Godspeed. If not, okay, I've done the right thing from a legal perspective. I've given you the opportunity to suck my changes up into your source code, so to speak. So other licenses such as the Apache license and the BSD license that I briefly mentioned don't have any requirement for that. And essentially it's what we call smash and grab. So I can essentially rob your house of your source code, so to speak, go make a commercial company, make a bucket load of cash and say, thank you, Kieran. And that's that. And that's as far as it goes. I am under no legal obligation, licensing or otherwise, to contribute any of my changes back to you. And admittedly, a lot of commercial companies use this type of license, because they might take a base source code, I guess, as a general base on their system. They put all this intellectual property above it, and that's the product that they sell to customers. So, and the reason why they don't share back is a lot of that stuff is intellectual property internal. For example, IBM does this quite heavily, Microsoft does this quite heavily, Cisco as well. There's no need to reinvent the source code wheel. If someone's going to build you the wheel, you just build upon that wheel, then that's what you do. And that's essentially what a BSD license is. I can't recommend that for what you guys are trying to do. It doesn't seem to fit the mold.
Yeah.
So perhaps a GPL version 2, version 3 license is really what you're after. You want to be able to do some work, give it out to whoever wants it. And if people would like to change it, improve it, whatever it may be, at least you can integrate it back into your system. GPL expressly does allow for commercial opportunities as well if you want to sell it, but it's really up to you guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't say it can't be done, it can be done. It's up to you guys as owners, so to speak. It's up to you guys.
That's awesome. That's really helpful. Is there do you have like some source material at all to sort of read through, or any walkthroughs on how we go about doing that properly?
Yep. So if you're I can send you some links. Find a bunch of the FSF, Free Software Foundation, which is headed by a guy called Richard Stallman, who was the original guy who wrote the GPL back in the late 80s. So Richard Stallman, he's what we call a Unix elite with a grey neck beard sort of thing, and he's a real sort of open source type guy. But yes, he wrote the GPL because he believes in freedom of for software and source code, and he runs a site, FSF, Free Software Foundation, and actually they do quite a lot of stuff. They give legal aid to companies who have GPL licensed code. For example, when HP stole a bunch of code, they provided the lawyers for a small business, 5 employees, and took HP to court and won. Right, so sort of a if you haven't donated, you should, because they're a good cause.
Yeah.
Anyways, check out their website. That goes through a lot of this sort of stuff, what your rights are and what the legal implications and so forth. But I'll send you some stuff, Kieran, as well, just online. But yes, I think the GPL for you guys is the way to go. What I will say though, in the future, if you are looking to change different licensing, it's a bit of a pain in the bum, to say, to make it nice, but so you really want to, as much as you can, get it right the first time round, if you can.
Yeah.
And one last thing, actually, with a GPL type license code, if you have a bit of source code, for example, that's licensed under GPL, and someone else creates a derived bit of work that's derived from yours but not expressly part of yours, and they use for their bit of source code or whatever they've created, just say the BSD license. You from a licensing perspective, not a legal perspective, from a licensing perspective, the GPL license agreement and any other license agreement are incompatible. Meaning, if you have GPL and then you put, like, for example, a BSD licensed file in that source code tree, that's incompatible, because GPL guarantees that every bit of work that's in that specific source code is all open source and freely distributable and usable. Yeah. And the reason for that is, if you have all these, and there's over 200 different licenses, open source licenses, and they're all vastly different. GPL guarantees that anything that's in that source code has to be GPL, because it's just the license, right? It doesn't know what other stuff's coming in or what the legal implications are there. And companies and open source products have been caught out by this before. Yeah, okay. Where the initial code was GPL, someone's written some additional code or modules, licensed it out under Apache license, brought it in. GPL is expressly incompatible with that because everything has to be of the same license, that being GPL. Brilliant, brilliant. Well,
that's super helpful. Thank you very much for going through that. Because I think it's...
Can I jump in here?
Just of course.
A couple of questions. So just continuing from the last bit of information you gave us, Tony, about the compatibility, does it mean that we also need to be kind of careful about which license we use, because we need to take into account on what software we're going to build on obviously crypto's got a lot of software code out there that we'll be using.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to look at what they use
Of course.
before we choose what to use, right?
Yes, yeah, and that's absolutely right. If you're using a crypto library, for example, that's made by someone on the internet, and that's licensed under the Apache share-alike license, and you're using GPL, literally GPL allows for you to use external libraries / modules that aren't GPL based, and GPL version 3 expressly allows for this as well. But there are some other really hardcore licenses that are non-GPL compatible. Because
I gotta be careful here. Yeah.
Yes, and it really depends, and it's one of those chicken and egg things, right? You make your own decision on your own code repository without seeing everyone else's, but it's really at some point some decision's got to be made. Yeah, so yeah, I'd be definitely looking at your crypto libraries, other products that you want to interact with.
Yeah.
And also from a source code derived perspective. The one caveat is if you have your product that's GPL'd and you interact with another product over an API, that's not considered a GPL violation because you're actually not using the source code, you're just API calls, right? Because that's an external library or service. So there's really the distinction there. If you integrate all that code into yours, yes, that will be subject to GPL interpretation.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess we need to hold back here. And Kieran, I'm not sure who's in charge of the technical decisions, but yeah, look at what we build on before a decision is made. So my other question is kind of more legalistic. So I wanted to check, Tony, with these licenses, do we use them as they are, totally unmodified, or is it like an online kind of license editor where you can go and you use this as a template and you fill in the blanks and you make choices? I've seen things like that happening. Or is it fixed? Like you take it and this is GPL, you use it.
Yeah. So if you're going to use the GPL, and the majority of these licenses, you'll have to use them verbatim. And the GPL is quite, it is a legal document, but you can read it as a normal, non-legal human. So you can read it and go, okay, well, yeah, it's real English. Whereas most other sort of derived licensing, like the Microsoft EULA, unreadable, the Apple EULA, unreadable. So in turn, no one reads them. The GPL license itself is so small that the actual GPL.txt, so the text file, which contains actual license, the whole GPL license, must be distributed with your source code as well. And it's like 4 kilobytes or something. It's small enough, right? And you can read it and go, okay, cool. And that's actually another GPL requirement, that the GPL license itself is distributed with the source code. It's 4 kilobytes. No one's going to care about this, right? So you can actually just find it freely online, of course. But yes, it has to be distributed with your source code as well. My thoughts, I would probably just use the GPL verbatim. And the reason for that is if you want to derive work from the GPL, which actually, funny enough, the GPL license itself is GPL'd itself. So you can actually take the GPL. Oh yeah, and that's what's
create
cool.
your license.
And that's what a lot of these other licenses that you really don't hear about, because I can create Tony GPL right now. I can just copy the GPL.txt file, change it, and put a few different things in to say, you owe me a beer every time you put my source code. If you sign up for it, well, I'll get a beer. Because my point is, it's that flexible that we can do all that. Should we be reinventing the wheel? I don't know. I'm a little hesitant to do that, I'll be honest. But yes, but certainly can be done.
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think Peter, like with that, just thinking about actually building. So we're writing curriculum. So I think external software. So for the days, the decentralized autonomous education system, that's kind of plugging into software that's already there. So I don't think that's going to affect us. I think it's more getting the right licensing on the curriculum that we're collectively writing together to make sure that it stays, like the conversation we were having earlier, make sure it is like an actual open project that's not owned by anybody, that can be forked anywhere without greedy companies or institutions
trying to take over.
Yeah. So that I think. So thanks heaps, Tony, because I really I hadn't thought about like the different licensing at all until you mentioned it. So it's very, very helpful. Sorry, Karen, were you saying something?
And in anything that we write in curriculum, we'll respectfully acknowledge any sources that we may be using, you know, the things that
Yes.
we introduce into the curriculum.
Yes.
Because we're not reinventing the wheel. We are creating something new, but that doesn't mean we don't learn from past experiences and past learning and current learning, because things are changing all the time. And I think that's a powerful and important way to value what's good that's happening, as
Yes.
well as introduce new things too.
Yeah.
100%.
Completely agree. And also, if someone's done some great work and you're using said work, why wouldn't you cite them and credit them? You know, they've helped you out, and it goes both ways. So you just do the right thing, credit people when credit is due, and vice versa, and put GPL on it, and everyone's happy, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, Kieran, you mentioned that you guys will be using GitHub or GitLab.
GitHub, yeah.
So
GitHub and Gitbook specifically.
Okay. So GitHub itself, when you create a new repository, it'll actually ask you what license type you want GPL being one of them. So if you specifically do GPL, now it's GPL from that point on.
What we might do, just thinking out loud, I might, in the Discord group, I might put a vote as to like which license we put, so we get consensus over that.
Sure.
And yeah, we'll do it that. I think that's probably the way to go. I'm leaning towards GPL version 3 just from what I've read and what you said, but we can have a read and see if there's anything else that sort of applies and do it that way. Because yeah, at the moment, there's no license applied to it, so I've just put it on the website, but not on the actual on the repository or repositories, should I say? Yeah, so we'll do that this week and get it sorted. That's awesome. All right, I think that kind of covers that part of it. So I had a few other points I wanted to get into. So
Can I just add something about making a decision?
Yeah, sure.
When we make a decision, there's a beautiful De Bono strategy called consequences and sequels, referred to as CNS. And he said, think about what are the short-term consequences of what you're doing now. And it's more, I can tell you more about it, but I'm just throwing both in there. Medium consequences, long-term consequences. How many schools have flavor of the month and do something fantastic, wonderful for a month or two or a year or whatever, and then throw it away and what's the next flavor of the month? We've got to be cool and be up with it. Really looking at what are the long-term consequences of what we're doing. What, you know, it's not just instant gratification, a fabulous session. Medium-term, long-term consequences and sequels is just one of the many fabulous strategies that Edward De Bono has created. And something interesting that happened this week was I received an email from Caspar De Bono, and in it he said, I'm just trying to remember, thinking lessons are free to use by parents, guardians, and teachers. Now, in brackets, related to what we're just talking about, in brackets, this means on this website or to print and use with your family or the school that you are a teacher, but not for further distribution or commercial use. So that's interesting. So that's another way of sort of saying it, because De Bono's work has always been free. It's always been accessible, but that little quote in brackets, when I clicked the link that Caspar sent me, that's a really important one. I know Jill knows the list, De Bono's work very well and knows the value of them. And I didn't learn from any major power source or anything, but just, you know, finding a way that you make sure it's accessible to everybody, which is what Tony's been explaining to us in a very safe way. And then I'll give you the link because it's a valuable, really good link to have. debono.com, all in lowercase. And then the top of the page, it says De Bono Thinking Lessons, and it's got a lot of other lessons. It's got an introduction from Edward De Bono and a lot of other lessons in there too, examples, like I said, like I just referred to, consequences and sequels. Another one is FIP, First Important Priorities. PMI, what are the pluses, minuses, and interesting of things we're doing? Have we, CAF, considered all factors? I mean, pretty amazing stuff. And they're quick and easy and accessible tools, but they can really take you into deep thinking and clear and lateral thinking. That's what he's known for, really broad thinking too. So, sorry, I just thought it was relevant now, especially with that. I was going to bring in consequences sequels anyway later on in the meeting, but especially with that comment in brackets after talking about the the materials.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what license he's used or they've used for their project. Whereabouts on the website, Karen?
Well, they sent me sorry, Casper sent me a link. I think if you go to learn, try there.
Yep.
Free thinking lessons, I can see it there on the right hand side.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just went straight to the link.
Yeah. 504. Yeah, I'll show you. It's like a Wix.
You had it there because I
Oh,
saw
there
it.
we go.
Yep, that's it. That's what I've got on my screen in front of me. And if you just keep scrolling down, it's got all these different, and that's available for anyone, but not for commercial use, but hey, for parents, for teachers, it's just pretty exciting that there are resources like that available so easily.
Yeah, 100%. I'll have to have a dig through that. That's really
Definitely,
helpful.
it's worth digging into. And look, Project Zero at Harvard Graduate School of Education also has free access to their wonderful thinking routines too. So we're very lucky that there are these sort of resources available in many different ways. Just about knowing about them. And hey, we want people having any questions about the Bitcoin school to consider all factors and what are the and really understand what are the consequences of it and things like that. I mean, yeah.
That's really helpful, Karen. Well, we should actually employ some of this and give some credit as well for any decisions we make. So that's awesome. On that same note, so I don't know if you guys had a look at this, but so we're doing the 24 hours of PBL. So I thought instead of me just jabbering on for half an hour, it was actually meant to be 10 minutes. And I contacted Frank Walker and said, can we have half an hour? And he said, yes. So I thought, why don't we all do a prez sort of together? And these are just tentative topics that I pulled up to do it in, and I thought we could do it in VR, so in the virtual learning space. We can pre-record, so any stuff so there'll be a lot of tinkering and getting it right. But are you guys all happy to present? I think you don't have to by any means, but you're all welcome. So I thought Jill and Karen, it might be cool for you guys to do like a de bono section. So talking about where some of your thinking sort of come from, or anything else you want to talk about, really. I thought Jacques running through the day's curriculum, so actually like how we've been constructing that. I'll do like the intro, and you talk about Digital Playhouse. I thought Peter and Michelle, if you're more than welcome to present. This is just something I put up, but you can talk about anything related to this project that you want. I think PBL's huge.
Yeah, Michelle mentioned something. When is this for?
So Monday we're going to record, but it doesn't go on. So 24 hours of PBLs, I think, later next month. So we've got plenty of time. So I thought if we kick off, record something, and if then we want to change, we can do that.
We've got a little constraint, and that is we're actually going on a 6-week overseas trip into Greece on Tuesday next week. So now switching into our trouble mode, with the usual packing and stuff. So so if I understand right, obviously we're not going to be able to do this live because I think we'll be in the air somewhere.
Okay.
So we need to pre-record about 30 minutes of content talking about.
Actually, yes. So if you want, okay. So what we're going to do? So I was going to use the virtual classroom. So this space here. I know Matt's got a Oculus Quest. I've got one as well. So we're probably going to use those. And you got one as well. Awesome.
Yeah.
So basically doing the prayers in here. But what we could do is if you pre-record something, I can embed the video and then we can watch it in VR and record it as part of the presentation, which is probably a bit wacky, but I think it'll be more fun for people to watch rather than, just a Zoom that everybody's sick of. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of more interactive, and then there's a space people can sort of join into later. So yeah, if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's time we used it. That's perfect. I can't wait.
Is this a good time to talk about logistics, like how we're going to do this? If there's going to be any questions, do we like, is this some kind of interview perhaps, or do we come up with, like if I do it with Michelle, for example, is it going to be up to me and her to just have a chat, or is maybe Kieran or someone else there to
I think for you
consider
guys,
as an interviewer? Or?
well, I think for the rest of us, we'll probably be like, we'll just do it together and we'll kind of back and forth. But maybe for you guys, talk about PBL specifically, what you've kind of been doing, if you can keep it succinct and how that may relate to this project, that'd probably be enough for this. I mean, there's no pressure or anything. I think it's pretty open-ended from what direction I've been given. So I thought let's just have as much fun with it as possible, really.
Okay. Now, when you say PBL, just to be absolutely sure, you talk about project-based learning, right?
Yes, because you've got a lot of experience with that. So I thought that it'd really.
And that's like in the general, just understanding that people have about project-based learning. Like, do we say if we start talking about this in the context of homeschooling, like I need some, if possible, understanding of the audience. So, for example, do we need to go to the basics and say, explain what is homeschooling, because people confuse homeschooling with remote learning in this stage. And then so we need to explain that. We need to explain what is project-based learning. People think there's just building a hut in the backyard, which could be. I'm not saying it's not, but
it could be.
So I guess it's know your audience so that you know how to approach a particular topic instead of just putting everyone to sleep because they already know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is specifically, well, it's called 24 hours of PBL. So I'm assuming the audience knows what PBL is.
Sure.
But I thought the homeschooling aspect would be really key. What you guys have sort of worked on already with PBL in relation to that, and then how that
maybe
potentially links to the School of Bitcoin. Which I think is really important. So it's not just for institutions, it's not just for schools or primary schools or high schools. It is for learners that are at home, and it's building a community for them as well. So I think that's really key, and you can probably articulate that better than me, Peter.
And it's like 30 minutes in total.
No, so we've got 30 minutes for all of us. So I reckon.
Okay. 5 minutes.
5 minutes into it.
5. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it should be awesome.
Okay. And so you said you're doing your recording as a group sometime next week, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, or is it Monday? You said?
Monday.
Monday, what time?
9:30.
9:30. Okay, I think we have to take the dog to the farm at the time, so we may have to do it a bit earlier, maybe at our time. No problem.
Yeah, sure. No, well, yeah, just shoot it through when you're ready, and I'll just put the video up, so that'll be all good.
Sure. All right. Got it.
That's the cool thing in the VR room, isn't it, Kieran? You can pull up a video and everyone watches the video in the VR room.
Yep. Exactly right.
So if someone can't be there, you can go, hey guys, just checking in, and Kieran throws it up on the video,
Yeah, I reckon.
Has anyone been into the hubs rooms before? Had a learning experience? It's pretty cool. Kieran did one with us. I think it was for the coding for kids or something. Oh no, we did it. I think for a bunch of educators and stuff at Startup Gladstone once.
That's right.
It was super cool. Really enjoyed it.
It's amazing. It's amazing stuff. But I mean, there'll be teething problems getting it all right, but we'll take the time and do it properly. Jill and Karen, are you okay with that?
Yeah. Karen, are you there?
Yep. So I had to leave for a minute, and then in a few minutes I have to actually leave the meeting, and just something's happening that I need to be at. But so I didn't. I just missed about 2 minutes.
Sorry. So for the presentation on Monday, if you can make it, no stress if you can't. I thought maybe you and Jill could talk about De Bono strategy specifically.
Yeah, I heard about the beginning. I just didn't hear the when bit, but Monday should be fine. About what time?
9:30.
Yep, that's fine.
Should be okay. Is that all right with you, Jill?
I'll just have to check. I might have to next week. I'm just not sure, Kieran. I might have to. Can I pre-record or? I'm not sure.
Maybe if you and Karen
we
want
can
to do a
talk, we can
pre-record.
talk beforehand, of course, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. No stress
Yeah.
either way. Let me know if you want to do a quick 5-minute press together, record it, and then we can just throw it up as well. That might be the way to go.
Okay.
But yeah, we could even talk about the card game as well. That might be something cool. Maybe throw it in there.
Yeah.
Hey, Karen, just something. Is Mondays? Mondays is a pretty intense day in the world. It's a great fresh start to the week, but is maybe something we have a look at.
Changing, yeah. I think it was a good day for Jacques.
Cool.
Jump in, and that's why he sort of picked that.
Perfect.
For that, so I don't know.
That's a good thing about everyone being in all different places, and the good thing about this space, you can jump in, jump out, because it's like
right. It's nothing
awesome.
Set in concrete. The other thing was the conference in Nigeria, so that's coming up. I don't think they're live streaming it.
Okay.
But I'll live stream my part, like when I'm doing it. So do you reckon I just do that on Discord, or should I do it on YouTube? Like what's better, do you reckon?
Will you record it in Discord?
I could
or just live stream it in Discord?
Yeah, stream it in Discord.
Well, that's a good way to get people to come into the Discord.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'll do that.
Cool. That'd be cool.
So was that we got D work tonight. So D work's on at 9 o'clock. So whoever can jump into that, I reckon it'll be cool.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
It'll be pretty awesome. Tony, you're welcome to come into that as well if you're interested. If you're not doing anything at 9 o'clock tonight.
Thanks.
And I'm going to be on the Bit Refill podcast as well. So that's, I don't know like what date or whatever, but they've basically that's run through one of the guys who's contacted through El Salvador. So they're like, oh yeah, we'll click on that. So that'll be good. So we'll talk about this project. And the other thing I wanted to go through was, probably we might leave Jacques' thing. He shared a document, but we could probably go through that with him, I think, because that's going to be really important for the Bitcoin Beach guys. So basically all the stuff we're working on for building the days and being able to fork that. So we want the really concise and the licensing as well is going to be important for that. And the other thing was the tech stack. So Gordon, you shared a document last night. Apologies, I was just writing on my phone like stuff that I was like,
no, that's all right.
So I didn't actually look at the document. Do we want to have a look? Do you want to share your screen and maybe go through that as a group?
Well, it's actually probably when we're going through the DAES, that was probably more in regards to that. But if we're not like at that stage yet, and we're just working on problem-based learning, and getting, all the open source, I'm not sure that's because we're talking about the full mechanism for a blockchain project.
Yeah.
I think we do some work like that's sort of like a bit of a future thing, as in wherever that's going to happen, wherever that's going to get created. I think it's thinking about, I guess if, I guess we could have some discussions in when a user, okay, so we've got a user, they're going to come into this space. And the ideas we've got there is how they're going to use it. Is it just off a website? They've got to, where's it? It's like the stack underneath of all the different parts, and then what's the user experience and how are they going to get in and use it? So I was curious as to how that's all going to look.
So,
if I was say a student, I came in and said, okay, I want to go in and start, playing around the School of Bitcoin. Do I just go to the website? And cruise my way around in there.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is the curriculum Git. So they'll be going through this. We'll do we'll flesh out the bit entry program first. So I think getting this really succinct. Then
so this would be the first step. I'm a student. I want to come into here and I want to learn. But going to into the
So curriculum.
In the curriculum? Awesome.
Running through this, and like with this, we can embed video, we can do all sorts of stuff. That's pretty awesome. So I reckon we do. So a lot of it, I think, should be video content as well. Practicals, I think for the initial phase, I think ID creation's really important. I think the Euro wallet setup, obviously, and then an LURL setup is really important as well. Whether that's Wallet of Satoshi or building that on a non-custodial, that's something probably up for debate. But I think that's sort of the practical, and then from there going into a test. So the test we're thinking writing in Typeform, Typeform with authentication using the Hiro wallet. So Hiro is basically this guy here. Works like MetaMask. So most people are kind of familiar with MetaMask, but this is built on the Bitcoin blockchain, obviously, through Stacks. And that lets you access the test. So there's no, I think it's
perfect.
Off the
That's
shelf
awesome.
stuff. So I don't think it's like, in terms of the tech stack, like what I was writing last night, so it's all kind of off the shelf things that are already there. But it doesn't really affect I don't think it affects the licensing over the curriculum creation. So I think it's two separate things in my mind anyway. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but oh, hey, Michelle.
Yeah, so when you got to the end of it, we had these ideas that, you create an NFT certification and the likes there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of a text, that's part of, that's another part of the Web3 stack, I guess. And
I think so, but I think for the interim, we do that manually. So like probably just using Discord. We could do a submission tool pretty easily on the website if we wanted to. So it's like, all right, I've completed this, submit, we spin up an NFT and issue that to that Hiro address. Like, I mean, that could be automated down the track, but I can't see it being something we need to build for an MVP. I think it's more so the curriculum and a mechanism for them to authenticate and sit a test for that. And obviously the licensing part is very important as well. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at with that. I think the last thing was just the deliverables for the days. I think there's a document that Jacques has shot through. Have a read of it, but I think maybe we'll get him to go through it after we've done our presentation. Well, maybe Monday we'll just stick to the presentation stuff. Maybe leave it for next Wednesday to go through that as a group, because you guys will be on holidays, I suppose. Where are you headed?
Going to Greece for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yes, traveling north, south, and a couple of islands.
nice.
Yeah, we're seeing our team. So
Yes, we're going for work. Yeah. It's going to be hard.
it's good that we've got our team in Greece.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, well, enjoy your time there.
We'll be in touch though. We might not be able to make the meetings, but we'll try depending on the time. Yeah.
Odd
9 a.m.
times, but yeah, you're free to anytime you want. Cool. Well, yeah. So, I think, is there anything else anyone want to chat about? There was a lot. There's a lot of info overload, maybe, I think, today. Yeah. So, if you guys want to make a video, Jill, if you want to make one, and then share it for Monday, and then Gordon, we'll jump in, and we can. I think Matt's going to jump in as well in his VR headset. So that'll be interesting. You can talk about PBL in New Zealand, and we'll kind of go from there.
Nice.
So
Looking forward to it.
yeah, me too. I reckon it's gonna be a lot of fun. So 9 o'clock tonight. I'll see you guys then.
Awesome.
Everyone, have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Hey.
See you guys.
Thanks
Cheers.
again, Tony. Really
Over.
helpful.
Anytime. Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye.
buddy. Bye.